Thank you. Good evening, all of you. Uh, Within 2 minutes, let me thank all the organizers of this webinar, 3 days webinar, and let me wholeheartedly thank the Forum of English Professors of Gadag and my very close friends Basavaraj Giritamanar, Ramakant Dodmani, and Apple Provisor, who forced me to join the webinar. Normally, I don't do that because I'm not comfortable speaking on mic and video. But their friendship was an compulsion to join. And at the same time, when I came to know that two of my friends are also going to be there, one was Professor N.S. Gundur, and another one, my classmate, Basuraj Donur, I thought I can learn something from them because they are the more creative writers and more academicians than I am. So I thought I should be benefited by them. And at the same time, I want to thank everyone present in the webinar for this session. I'm going to talk on the topic reading with purposes. We have listened to marathon lectures in 2 days for more than 1 hour each. And this is a third day. So this is something like a series of cricket. After 2 tests, there has to be a 1 day match. Only then you enjoy. So mine will not be like a lengthy deliberation. It will be a short deliberation of say 30 minutes or 40 minutes and then discussion. So let me begin with my topic. Initially, we are made to believe that reading is for fun, reading is for recreation. But today, as Basaraj Girithamar sir said in the beginning on the first day, that we have to think out of box. So keeping this sentence of his into mind, I have tried to think out of box, and I have my own ideas even before this about how and why we read literature. My purpose of understanding this topic may not match with your understandings, but these are all going to be my personal opinions. In these 40 minutes, I'm going to present my stray and dry ideas collected from here and there with all my experiences into academia for around 27 years of my understanding. And I will try to be precise and I'll try to reach you. I don't know if I will be successful or not, but my efforts will be very sincere in doing that. Saying this, uh, let me begin. We say that we read for fun, at the first instance itself, I discard this belief. We can never read for fun or never for recreation. When we are reading a text, we are always reading to understand the society, the history, and the culture of that particular time and place. Otherwise, there is no meaning in reading a text. And all these three things together, understanding society, understanding culture, and understanding history, if we put all these three things into one basket and say that there is a politics behind that. When I say reading the text, I also mean writing a text, because even writing has to be inspired by political motives. May not be political, need not be in the forefront, but at the background of a writer or a reader, there is a politics of understanding the society, understanding the culture, and understanding the history of that particular literature or that particular text. So when we say that, when we try to understand these three things, after understanding these three things, we try to locate and identify ourselves with that text. I hope I am able to reach you all. when we read a text, we try to extract the social conditions, we try to extract the culture, we try to extract the history. And when we do that, we try to connect ourselves with that character or with that society or with that culture. When we connect ourselves or when we locate ourselves with that literature or with that particular character, then we start giving our opinions. Then we start writing a criticism or making a critique of that text or that literature. With this, we can do this only when we emotionally connect. We emotionally connect with the characters and we emotionally connect with the text and we try to extract what we are trying to understand. My deliberation of these 30 minutes will be precisely on the idea and politics of understanding the reading with purpose. To understand the purpose of reading of a text or a literature, I have divided briefly or roughly into two parts. One is about the English or the European text, and the next one is the Indian text. When I say English text, I mean context also. When I say Indian text, I mean Indian text and context also. On the first day of the webinar, Professor Gundur, my good friend, touched upon 3 points. That was that we are not English speaking people. We are Kannadigas. When I say Kannadigas, Marathis or Tamilians, I will be meaning Indians. Let me put it in a broader way. I'll be meaning Indians. We are Indians and we are Indians teaching English to Indians. These were the two most important points he touched upon. And the third most important point he touched is that literature reflects culture. Literature reflects culture. Taking these 3 points of his, I will move ahead with my presentation. And towards the end of the presentation, I will be ending or summing up my speech or my presentation with my other friend's idea, which he floated yesterday about Professor Donor floated yesterday, that how a text should be read and how a text should be understood. And he was, towards the end, he was referring to Choman Duddi. I will be ending my presentation with that. So beginning with this, we really are not English speaking people. We are Indians, we are Kannadigas, and yet we have a purpose of reading English literature. I have divided two broad topics of my understanding why we are reading English language or literature. They are, first one is getting jobs by studying English literature or English language is much easier in this country than reading any particular other language of any other region. So getting job is one. This is the fundamental need of everyone in this country, that we should get jobs. And this is my personal experience also, that I got job because I studied English literature. This is one thing. Second most important thing is, this is going to be the crux of the presentation, that is, we feel that we are into a bracket of elite class and elite culture. If we read English literature, we suddenly feel that we are in an elite culture or in an elite class. That is the reason why we depend more on studying English literature. It is now almost 75 years that the British have left this country. British left India precisely in 1947, but the colonial hangover has remained as it is even to this date. we have remained in this colonial hangover in this even in this day, and we are in that hangover. We are much obsessed in studying English literature. When I say English literature, again there is a specific thing which Professor Donur referred to. We study daffodils. Right from my school days, I have studied daffodils 4 times before I completed my post-graduation. Now, my reference to my friend Gundu saying that literature reflects culture is what I want to argue. We have studied daffodils. We know there are thousands of daffodils, golden color daffodils, but we don't know. We have never touched daffodils. We have never smelled daffodils. Forget smelling and touching. We have not even seen daffodils. But for 70 years, we are praising daffodils. We are praising Lucy poems. This is a high time that we should read our Indian poetries, our Indian flowers, understand the fragrance, touch them, feel them, and understand the culture. After daffodils, in the whole world, and our country is no exception, the most studied drama is Shakespearean Hamlet. We are so obsessed with Hamlet that as soon as we say drama, we rush to Hamlet. This is an obsession. This obsession is because, as I told you, it is the colonial hangover and the feeling of being in elite class. Why we do this? We do this because in a very lighter way, there is a saying. We do all this because there is a saying which is very popular in and around Delhi, that if it rains in Oxford, the frogs of JNU start jumping. That is colonial hangover. That is feeling elite. So we exactly copy whatever is happening in European countries. We feel that reading Hamlet is much, much better than reading Shakuntala. Now, my contention is why we should study daffodils and why we should study Hamlet. It is 400 years that Shakespeare has written about Hamlet. It is almost 300 years back that Wordsworth has written about daffodils. There is so much of culture, there is so much of literature in our country, and this is high time that we should read the dramas, the poetries, the novels of our country to understand the culture. Swami Vivekananda once said, if you want to move from your place to some other place, the most important thing you should learn is you should learn the history and culture of our place or our country. Without knowing too much about the culture of our country, we are obsessively talking only about European culture, European literature. The next one, as an example I have taken, is we have always talked about existentialism and suffering of women in the novels of Thomas Hardy with reference to Tess of D'Urbervilliers. We are very happy talking about the sufferings of Tess of D'Urbervilliers. But how long? Don't we have Chandri in our own neighborhood, in our own state? Don't we have somebody called Amrita Pritam, Pinjar? These are the novels which open the eyes and they reflect more on the culture of our country. This should be the purpose of reading. We should not read anything only to be in the elite class or in a hangover of some other rulers who. And we need not think that English itself is a superior language or the literature of that language alone is very important. To substantiate my stance of why we should read about our culture, I have taken help of Sanskrit dramas which were written in and around 7th century. When we say Hamlet, we reflect upon two most important points in Hamlet. That is, one amongst them is play within play and mousetrap. We consider these to be the most marvelous devices Shakespeare has used. But you please go back to 7th century and you will find that in 7th century itself, Indian dramatists had devised a play within play that is called as Garbhanka. Garbhanka, that is embryo play, a play within play. And they quote the example of Sita Swayambar within the play. So this is one thing, and it is not necessary that the Hamlet's play within play is the first device. Gundu sir referred to one more very important point of understanding new literatures, that is magic realism. If we always believe that if we read Lawrence Rainbow, we will understand magic realism. No. My point is, we can read Salman Rushdie's Midnight Children, full of magic realism, full of culture of India. These reflect more of our culture. These literatures of our culture will make us understand more what literature is. We don't understand because literature written in English, written by Europeans, very easily because we are not accustomed to the culture and history of that particular country or that particular literature. So the next one is, he says, I have gone through that in in Sanskrit dramas, there were 4 important devices which were used by Thomas Kyd in Spanish tragedy, which was exorbitantly used by Shakespeare. I'm not saying that they were copied by Sanskrit literature or Sanskrit dramas, but what I am trying to tell you is that these are the most important cultural factors of our country, our culture, which were existing in our country since 7th century. This is my argument, that we have to read with the purpose of understanding the culture. Literature always reflects society and culture, and they are very, very important if we are understanding the culture of our own through our own literature. The other devices which we find in Sanskrit dramas are Sutradharas. Sutradharas became stage managers in Shakespeare Hamlet. In Shakespeare and Hamlet, we find that towards the end, the audience come and watch the match between Hamlet and his enemy. That was introduced in Sanskrit dramas in 7th century, and it was called as Sutradhara. Third most important point which we find in Sanskrit dramas is that there is the most beautiful device of bringing the dead back to life, which was not possible to be found in Shakespearean dramas also. Indian dramatists had the beauty of bringing the dead back to life in the on the stage. Next one, I told just now, I referred about TESS, existentialism. When we talk of existentialism, we need not always depend on TESS. We can always understand Pinjar's characters. We can understand Chandri. I'll come to Pinjar and Chandri again afterwards. Now, with these few points of British literature, very quickly, I'll come back to Indian texts and Indian literature and the politics of writing and understanding the literature by in Indian writers, and which I have divided into 2 parts. That is mainstream writers and so-called marginalized writers. There are two important points we have to understand, that this whole literature, whole writers and readers are always in the race to come to the center, and there is a force which is pushing the others to the margin. This whole politics of center and margin is always reflected in the literature. If we take the present scenario of our country, there is a huge hue and cry and debate of nationalism. Let me not indulge into the politics of that, but that can be taken as an example in literature, and that margin and center and the feeling of loss of identity is always reflected in the literature. Literature helps us to come to the center. Literature sometimes denies someone to be pushed to the fringes. It never allows others to come to the center. Why we are suddenly feeling that our identity in our country is lost? The reason are we ourselves. Why and how? This country, which has got a history of 3,000 years, had a beautiful language called Sanskrit. But Sanskrit was murdered because it was not allowed to be learned by others. It was a privilege of very few people, and knowingly or unknowingly, it became a reason for the death of that language. Same was with Greek and Latin. But at the same time, the Britishers did not do that. The Britishers happily allowed English to grow globally. They allowed English to grow globally. They allowed everyone to learn English. And the purpose of them allowing everyone to learn the language was very simple. The purpose of their teaching English to everyone was that we all should serve the English. We all should serve the Queen of England. And they succeeded. And though we had the richest of culture, our culture slowly was pushed to the fringes, because the most important component of a culture is language, and that language of our great country was pushed to the periphery, and today is almost on the deathbed. When we don't promote our own culture, we don't promote our own language, we heavily start depending on other cultures and other languages. This is what happens is, after a time span, say about 200 years of thrusting of English in our country, we became colonized. Now we have become colonized in not only one way, we have been colonized in so many ways. We are colonized in multi-facets. One amongst them is language. With this hangover, let me come to Indian context of writing English. When we talk of English literature or English culture, we have a hangover of colonial hangover. When we come to Indian context, we have another hangover called mainstream writers hangovers and marginalized writers. These mainstream writers think that they are the most important writers, and all other writers are not writers at all, or their writing is not a literature at all, or their literature is not cultured. So the purpose of reading and writing literature has many dimensions. One amongst them is political dimensions. Even though we feel that we are reading literature for fun, we are not reading literature for fun. We are reading literature to identify ourselves. We are reading literature to locate our position in the society. Today, we find that we are at the loss. To quote some examples from here and there, the first example I would like to take is when we say, before coming to literature, it is not only in literature, politics of positioning is everywhere, in everything. We find that we are particularly located by any way. It need not be literature. For example, if I say Malya, this name, Malya itself reflects where he is located. When I say Mallappa, we all know where he is located. When we say Malaya, we all know where he is located. So even by calling somebody's name in our country, we know where we are located and we know what is our position in the society, what is our identity. So if that is the case, you imagine how we have been writing our literature and how we have been reading our literature. The one novel which almost troubles me is Samskara. The title of the novel is Samskara. But when you say, when you address somebody as Chandri, it is not a part of Samskara. When we say Chandri, we know where we are locating. We know Chandri is a prostitute, but why only Chandri should be a prostitute? Why shouldn't we name her as Lakshmi and Saraswati? I know when I'm taking these two names itself, we are disturbed. Means we are obsessed, politically obsessed, socially obsessed. We know how to locate the people. We know what is center and what is margin. Chandri could be Chandrama, Chandri could be Chandralekha, anything, Chandrama, anything. But when we particularly or obviously deliberately call Chandri, we are not talking of her profession, we are talking of her location in the society. So that is very important purpose. This is how I think that should be the purpose of reading literature. Next one, which yesterday my friend Donur was talking about Bhairappa's writing and Sidlingaya's writing. S.L. Bhairappa is a very modest, very sober writer, and Sidlingaya was very, very vocal and very, what you say, his words were very hurting. Yes, because whenever you move from margin to center, whenever you try to locate your identity in the center, you have to push so many people and so many things to reach there. So the language, the voice which was suppressed for hundreds and thousands of years, and now that voice wants to be heard. When that voice should be heard, it always has to be loud. In the process of being loud, it has to use the language. And when Sidlingaya uses Ikkarla, Hodirla, it also reflects the childhood culture, the childhood environment of that writer. There is one more writer from Maharashtra called Babul Kamble. He also says, hunger, I want to copulate with you. This, you just understand what is the purpose of writing and what is the purpose of we understanding that. He is so frustrated because when Babul Kamble says, hunger, I want to copulate you, it is not that only Babul Kamble is hungry. For thousands of years, a particular community is hungry, starving, marginalized, neglected. So their voice has to be loud, their voice has to be a bit, what you say, coarse. And at the same time, when we see very subtle writers like R.K. Narayan, Raja Rao, or U.R. Anandabhuti, or S.L. Bhairappa, they will be very sober, they will be very, very, what you say, rosy. because that also reflects of their position in the society, their upbringing and their culture. So the purpose of writing and reading is always with the intention of locating every individual in a particular place in the society. And every individual or every reader or writer wants a position in the center. And everyone is trying to push each other in the margin. Now, yesterday, my friend Basavaraj Donur was referring to Choman Devdi, and he was telling that when Choman Devdi asked for the land which belonged to himself, Shivram Karan, the owner denies. At that point of a time, my friend Donor said one thing from which I disagree with him. He said that there was a critic who said that it is not the problem of the owner, it is the problem of Shivram Karan, who did not want to give the land to the Chomangudi. That is exactly my argument. And at that point, Donur said that I don't believe, because if you start criticizing in that way, then the literature collapses. The purpose of literature collapses. No, it doesn't collapse. From there, it has a new perspective. I will quote an example how it will not collapse and how it will take a new course. Yesterday's talk of his, he was referring to Animal Farm, which was written hundreds of years back or years back, decades ago. And at that, in that novel, there is a saying that all animals are equal, but some are more equal. And there is a point which he referred that the man is the only animal who steals the milk and gives the minimal to the animal which produces milk. And he said that it was studied with a Marxist perspective. When any literature can be studied with Marxism, when any literature can be studied with structuralism, deconstruction, why cannot it be studied with a marginalized angle? Why it should not have a purpose of understanding our own culture, our own point? When we accept Marxism, when we accept Derrida, when we have got the liberty of deconstructing any text, we have the liberty of deconstructing the way we want. We want, or anybody. When I say we want, I'm referring to every individual who reads the novel or the text, and he or she has got all the liberty to deconstruct the way they want. There is no structure. There is no particular way. It is. We become happy when we talk of Marxism. We become very happy when we talk of Strauss. We become very happy when we talk of Saussure. Again, colonial hangover. This is colonial hangover. We don't need them. We need to understand our own culture. We need to develop our own culture. We need to rectify our own culture. We need to build our own nation. Now there is a concept of nationalism. All other countries, say like China, say like Russia, they have all, these two countries, say America, they have all developed because they have got one language, they have got one culture. Though our country is very diverse, we have got 600 odd languages, and there is a saying in Hindi, 6 कोस में पानी बदले 12 कोस में जुबान बदले, means in this country after 6 kilometers the water taste of water changes, and after every 11 kilometers the vernacular style changes. When we have so much of diversity, when we have got so much to understand about our own country, now this is the right time that we have to take everyone into one basket and we have to move towards the culture of having oneness, unity amongst diversity, and we should not mind someone who is criticizing. There is a very beautiful poem about Kannada. I'm very poor in Kannada literature, but there is one song that in Kannada that where he says that even if you are a rich man, you be in be a Kannadiga. Even if you are a beggar, you be in be Kannadiga. When we are with the same concept, even if we are Chandri, even if we are Babul Kamble, or even if we are Pranesh, anybody, we have to all live together. We have to build a new nation, and to build a new nation, the purpose of writing and the purpose of reading a text can be the way we need it today. We need to redefine the culture of this country. We need to restructure the society of this country, and we have to rewrite the history of this country in the new demands of the time. With these very stray and dry ideas, I don't know if I have reached you. I am sure I might not have convinced all of you, but as an individual, I don't mind in putting my ideas very straight, even though it may not be acceptable to everyone. With this brief talk of 30 odd minutes, let me stop here because it's almost 6 and I'm sure that I will be having some questions fired at me. So thank you one and all for patiently listening to me. Thank you.
Mr. Chandra Bhaskari,
Yeah.
student.
Yes.
Sir, it was, at the outset, I must congratulate you for the wonderful talk. You have given fresh insights into reading literature. And I just actually wanted to share one thing in relation to your talk. As you already know that I think I was, teaching in a high school for almost 15 years, and I have been into this, college. That is, I have been appointed as lecturer of English in government PU college shortly, and it has been just 6 months. And in the previous text, when I was teaching high school, there was a poem. It was, of course, a sonnet by Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? That was the title of the sonnet, and we objected it because it was highly decontextualized. How can we think of a lover in India comparing his beloved to a summer's day, which is very horrible, and it doesn't fit in any way into Indian scenario and Indian context. And finally, it was removed. It was removed. So when you were, discussing all these things, the subtler nuances of culture and need to understand our own culture, I could relate myself to that poem, sir. It was wonderful. And one more question, it has already been asked by Mohan, sir, and that was my question as well. When culture is not something fixed, it is not rigid. It is in a flux, and it is always in a constant dialogue with the change. And in the backdrop of this, is it useful to compare and contrast our own culture with the culture of other countries? Say, for instance, British or American writer, and that question has already been addressed. I am, making this, statement, or making my opinion again. I'm putting forth my opinion again because it will help to understand our own culture in the better light when we juxtapose it with the other cultures. Could you, please some more? Could you please throw some more light on this, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Chandrasapa. This is exactly what I'm trying to tell you. Now we are all attending this webinar. We are all students of English literature. Now you tell me, in the whole course of studying English literature, did we study British literature more or the literature about our own country? We have not studied the literature of our own country. Without studying the literature of our own country, we will not understand the culture of our country. See, for example, I'll tell you one. one example. We always talk of Tempest by Shakespeare, the last drama of Shakespeare, and today the whole world is obsessed in postmortem of Caliban and Prospero, right? And
Yeah, sir.
in that drama, Caliban says, "You taught me language, and I will use it to abuse you,"
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
the whole world is very happy.
Hmm.
But we name so many theories and say that we could do that because there were so many theories have come into existence. But when we talk of Babul Kamble, hunger I will copulate you, the whole country will stand up and say that it is uncultural. This happens because we are not accustomed to our own culture. We are not ready to accept the change in the society. So my argument in this last 40 minutes was that we have to give scope to understand and accommodate everyone in our culture. Only then we can talk about other cultures. See, for example, we are really doing that, and that is somewhere we are misleading ourselves. We talk so much about things fall apart, right? We talk about the
Yeah.
sufferings of that Okonko, but
Hmm.
how many of us have studied Godan?
Hmm. Premchand. Premchand.
If you read Godan, in more half of the novel you will be crying to understand the plight of the farmer and the poor of this country. But we
Yes.
never get a chance to read Godan. But most 90% of the people attending this webinar have surely read Things Fall Apart. So this is a
Yeah.
time that we have to come back to our culture.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so
yeah,
much, sir.
yeah.
And
Thank you.
as a move towards this, most of the pieces in our PU textbooks are
Yeah,
translations of Indian writers only, sir.
yeah.
That's a positive note, I feel. And I hope all the senior lecturers in the group would agree with me.
Thank you. And the
Thank you so much, sir.
the happiest thing is the NEP.
Ah,
NEP talks of those things, and it
yeah.
has inculcated all these things. We are
Yes.
going back to understand the system of our culture of our country through NEP.
Okay, sir.
Good
Thank you
evening.
so much, sir. Thank you
Yeah,
so much
thank
for
you.
the response.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.